So criminal records, why is this topic relevant? Essentially, we've had increased criminalization since the 1970s in particular. There's been an explosion of criminal laws and the types of behavior that are now criminal. By 2012, it was estimated that about 70.3 million adults have some type of criminal record, which is essentially 1 in 4 Americans. There's a wonderful project out there that talks about the other 75%. But the point is, it's actually quite a high number. If we're talking about 1 in 4 Americans who has some type of criminal record or experience with the criminal justice system, that's a lot of people out there. I gave a shout out in my presentation to the We Are All Criminals project. Their website is weareallcriminals.org. I would suggest that people go check that website out. It's essentially a project that talks about the other 75% of people out there who perhaps just didn't get caught and don't have a record. But what's really interesting is they have a lot of good data about people who are involved in the criminal justice system and the ways that it impacts their life, how their life sort of took a turn by having some sort of criminal involvement or criminal record versus the people who were perhaps lucky and just didn't get caught, you know, the differences in the ways that their lives went. So some of that is actually really good for hearings and sort of giving some judges statistics if you ever go to court and argue about the impact of having a criminal record. We're also in an age where there's been digitization of criminal records. It seems nowadays that a lot of the information is being put into databases so that it can be easily searched. Most governments these days have some type of digitization of their criminal records, databases that, whether it's government officials, the public, or attorneys, or whoever, some stakeholder in the criminal justice system can easily search this information. That's compounded with the fact that we're in the electronic age when it comes to these records. A lot of this stuff now has been put online. There's obviously a big focus for having public criminal records. Most of the time these are in fact public criminal records when someone goes through the justice system. And there's been a real push to allow the public to have access to this information, whether it's cameras in the courtrooms or searching criminal records on official government databases. Additionally, background checks are increasingly done. I'll talk in a minute about some of the prevalence of background checks and what they're used for, but more and more as this information becomes easier to access and people such as landlords and employers and even insurance agents are figuring out ways to access this information, they're using it to their advantage. We'll talk about the fact that there is also increased collateral consequences. With the passage of laws, criminal laws, there's also increased collateral consequences that will come from those criminalization or those laws that will be giving someone a criminal record, whether it's licensure issues or whether it's perhaps other issues such as not being able to adopt or immigration issues. I'll talk a little bit about that as well. There's sort of this culture also too of fear. We have this sort of notion somehow that there's been this creation of the scarlet letter A or the second-class citizenry who can just never really get past a criminal record. And so there's increased conversation about once somebody does have a criminal record, how are we going to be able to get them to be able to put their life back on track and never get past this? Kind of the idea that we have to go beyond just one strike and you're forever out.